We've been doing this for 11 years, and during those 11 years, on average, Bitcoin has doubled every year for 11 years, and he's complaining it's taken so long. That is a great trade. I think it is great that there are really cool projects being built on Bitcoin. Things like Stacks, those are great. But, people sometimes say, what's the killer app of Bitcoin? Bitcoin's the killer app of Bitcoin, right? There's so much wealth being stored, so much savings, so much cross-border money flows.
I think Bitcoin in the next year could go to $2.5 trillion of market cap.
In this interview with Aaron Arnold and Gary Cardone, prominent Bitcoin advocates Anthony Scaramucci and Dan Morehead discussed market trends, institutional investment, the potential of Bitcoin, and Donald Trump's influence. They highlighted the significant flow of high-quality money into exchange-traded funds, which experts have historically undervalued. Gary Cardone emphasized that Bitcoin remains an asymmetric gamble, while Anthony Scaramucci argued that Bitcoin should be valued similarly to gold in terms of market capitalization. Scaramucci predicted this trend would persist, citing examples of institutional investors like pension funds allocating a portion of their assets to Bitcoin. Cardone concurred, noting that institutional investors have minimal exposure to Bitcoin and blockchain, making it an inevitable and asymmetric trade. He stressed that this movement, primarily driven by individual investors, had been overlooked by smart money. Cardone remained optimistic about the future, forecasting that institutional investors will increasingly allocate funds to Bitcoin and blockchain technology, fueling further growth.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
Bitcoin's still an asymmetric bet today, and why? Help educate us. Gary, I'll throw it to you first.
It feels to me like it's asymmetrical. I think everyone's underestimated. These guys have been here a lot longer than I have. I have not met one person that got close to the estimates of the quality or the volume that is rolling into these ETFs. The quality is staggering, and the volume is spectacular, I think. When every expert in Bitcoin can miss that volume by 3-4x, I don't think anyone really understands how asymmetrical this could possibly be.
Everybody missed it.
Everyone.
What do you think, Anthony?
So, I'll put it very simplistically. It's an asset class, so therefore it shouldn't trade to the market capitalization of NVIDIA or Apple. It's got to trade to the market capitalization of gold. And I would argue that it's better than gold, so it'll probably trade to a market capitalization above gold. And then I'll just say two quick things. The Jersey City, the mayor just said 2% exposure for the pension fund into Bitcoin. The state of Wisconsin is saying they've got $150 million that they announced last month or 2 months ago in Bitcoin. And we'll be on this stage next year. Someone will be on this stage explaining that the tactical asset allocation models for all institutional investors will have a 1, 2, possibly 3% exposure to Bitcoin. And so when you think about the magnitude of that, I don't see how you don't trade to the market capitalization of gold.
Yeah, I totally agree with Anthony. That's the right way to look at it. We were at Goldman when they did the GSCI, and now everybody thinks of commodities as an asset class. Doing emerging markets in the 90s, and now everybody thinks of emerging markets as an asset class. In probably 5 years tops, every institutional investor on earth will have a blockchain team. They're going to have an allocation. It's going to be like 800 basis points or something like that. And the reason I'm still so bullish, and I think it's still so asymmetric, nobody has that allocation right now. Right. This is the first trade smart money missed, right? It's all individuals like you in the audience that did this. Almost all institutions have either zero or less than 1% of their assets in blockchain. And so it's not only the most asymmetric trade I've ever seen, I think it's the most inevitable trade I've ever seen. Like, it might take longer than we all think.
Right.
It might have some ups and downs, which it does. But basically, everybody with a smartphone is going to be using blockchain in 10 years, right? Like, it's just that obvious. So that's why I still think it is still very asymmetric, because institutions have yet to really address it.
If Trump wins, is that orders of magnitude better for Bitcoin?
Whatever my personal disagreements are with the president, policy, et cetera, I applaud him for embracing this technology and for embracing this commodity. I applaud him for it. And I'll tell you something that he's done for this industry, which all of us have to be grateful for. He's pushed the debate, okay? And so it was reported, so I'll share it with you. Mark Cuban, myself, Michael Novogratz, representatives from Kraken. We had a whole group of people, not just Kraken, but others. Mr. Garlinghouse was with us. We sat with Ro Khanna, other members of the Congress, Senator Gillibrand, Anita Dunn from the White House. And I don't think we're having that meeting with the Democrats without Donald Trump. And so I want to applaud the president for that. And I'm hopeful that we can push the Democrats into the swimming pool with us. And I'll just conclude by saying this. It's in the interest of the industry and all the Bitcoin holders out here and people that believe in the long-term prosperity that we can garner from digital assets, that we make this bipartisan. We want this regulation to be propitious and bipartisan. And I think President Trump deserves the credit for moving people into the middle on.
The panel discussed whether Bitcoin requires a robust token economy for continued growth. Dan Morehead emphasized that Bitcoin's greatest strength lies in its store of value, calling it a remarkable achievement for the world. Anthony Scaramucci, who invests in Bitcoin for its store of value, believes its market cap could reach $2.5 trillion within a year, but also thinks that a strong token economy could push Bitcoin's value beyond that of gold. Morehead, meanwhile, projected that the price of Bitcoin could double to around $160,000. Gary Cardone added that owning just 0.1 Bitcoin could potentially make someone a millionaire in 20 years. The panel underscored the importance of long-term, fixed-amount investing in Bitcoin to grow wealth, despite its volatility. Let's return to the interview to hear more insights from Gary Cardone, Dan Morehead, and Anthony Scaramucci.
I think it is great that there are really cool projects being built on Bitcoin. Things like Stacks, those are great. But people sometimes say, what's the killer app of Bitcoin? Bitcoin's the killer app of Bitcoin, right? There's so much wealth being stored, so much savings, so much cross-border money flows. So even if nothing else gets built on top of Bitcoin, it is an amazing development for the world.
Bitcoin is fantastic, but if you can layer on a token economy, in addition, it will go way more exponential. It'll likely surpass gold because we've seen what token economies can do to other coins. And so the question is the technology there, and can you execute the technology on Bitcoin vis-a-vis a token economy? And the answer is yes. But I don't think, and I'll speak for myself, and maybe Dan and Gary will disagree with me, I'm not making the investment for that reason.
Correct.
I'm making the investment because this is sort of the purest store of value. If you study history and the history of money and the technology known as money, this is the purest store of value. And just 30 seconds on this, I'm writing a book for John Wiley called The Little Book of Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor has agreed to do the forward for me, which I'm very grateful for. And I went to interview Peter Diamandis, and he said to me, you remember meeting Hal Finney, don't you? And I said, actually, no, I don't remember meeting Hal Finney, but Peter Diamandis introduced me to Hal Finney. Of course, he was the first person to receive a coin from the Nakamoto wallet. And I met Hal Finney in 2014. Don't tell my children that I met Hal Finney in 2014 because I didn't buy any Bitcoin. But I just want you to think about what they did to perfect this and to decentralize it. And so you don't need the token economy. What you need is for people just to adopt Bitcoin as they are doing and just let it scale.
I think Bitcoin in the next year could go to $2.5 trillion of market cap. And that's the way I like to look at it rather than the price. I like to look at it relative to a NVIDIA.
So what, Bitcoin is what now? What
We're at 1.3, so that would be another billion.
Okay.
Another trillion of value. Mm-hmm. So 30 grand. I mean, and to these guys' point, I don't think you need the cream and the cherry on the top to make an investment decision in Bitcoin. Now, if all the tokenomics, if that happens, we're so underestimating this.
Dan, 1 year from today, what do you think Bitcoin's price will be?
So my standard answer is always double because that's what it's done on average for 11 years. But actually, I think this political unlock makes me more bullish. So I think it's going to be more than a double. 160,000, something like that.
160,000. Anthony, any?
Yeah, so I'm in. If this is the price is right, I'm going to go 10,000 more than Dan. But I do believe that though, because if you look at the halving cycle and you look at the supply-demand dynamics, you typically get a 4x move from the halving, and that implies 160, 170. And I think that's something that can very much so happen. I mean, are there geopolitical shocks that could hurt it? Possibly. But I also see Bitcoin decoupling over the next 12 months. So meaning, I don't think it's going to be as tied to the NASDAQ, or it's not going to be as tied to supply shocks like a Mt. Gox or a selling of the German government and things like that.
I think people are, once they get into Bitcoin, if you buy 0.1 Bitcoin, I think you start looking at your other assets. Like I sold a house. I'm starting to compare everything in Bitcoin terms. I have a beautiful home, but it's not worth $76 million. Not in any matrix is it worth that. And if I would have deployed that same money 4 years ago, okay, into Bitcoin, it would be $72 million. That is life-changing money for anyone. So that could have been an $800,000 house. It would still be $7.6 million. I think people need to work harder, do more hours, making fiat, which is the best mining on the planet, work 20 more hours a week, and then buy Bitcoin.
Since reaching its June highs, the cryptocurrency market has suffered a sharp decline, losing around $800 billion in value. Bitcoin's price dropped below $50,000 on Monday after previously peaking at $70,000 in July, driven by optimism about Donald Trump's stance on cryptocurrency. David Duong, Coinbase's head of institutional research, advises caution when considering buying Bitcoin, even in light of Mark Cuban's bullish price forecast. Duong attributes the market's volatility to the unwinding of the Japanese yen carry trade, triggered by the Bank of Japan's interest rate hike, which has led to a sell-off in Japanese stocks and a broader market downturn. He expects this disruption to persist in the near term, with a potential recovery in the coming days, but warns that market troubles are far from over, especially with growing concerns about a possible recession in the coming weeks. While Duong remains optimistic about the fourth quarter, he anticipates a turbulent third quarter, viewing the current sell-off as a defensive phase rather than the start of a new market cycle. The intensity of this downturn has tested Coinbase's confidence, yet they remain cautious and prepared for further market fluctuations. Duong also notes that the market could be influenced by the Federal Reserve's decision in mid-September, reaffirming the expectation of a volatile third quarter. As we wrap up, what are your thoughts on this interview? Please share your comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.